What made the weird kid at your school weird? There was a kid in my school who was obsessed with Mario. He had Mario sweatshirts and notebooks. And a Mario backpack. Well, someone figured out that if you told him Mario is dead he'd flip. Scream and cry no he's not every time. He got in trouble multiple times for attacking kids who said anything about Mario dying, even if they were talking about in the context of Smash Bros or something. This happened 8th 10th grade, then I never saw him again. The Vine where a kid goes I have the power of God and anime on my side and screams like a banshee went to my middle school. He was maybe 4 grades underneath me, but his weirdness turned him into one of the most popular kids in his grade. He was on a hair trigger. Would snap and threaten people. Suspended multiple times. 2 memorable incidents were when we freaked out at an art teacher. Went to his locker and came back with a bullwhip. He made that thing snap and sent everyone running. She barricaded herself in the supply room. Another time someone made the mistake of teasing him about something and everyone laughed. And he pulled a knife and screamed who wants to the first to die. He was expelled and I'm not sure what became of him. Mustard boy. I'll never forget him. He would cover his lunch tray in mustard. Chicken nuggets. Mustard. Mexican pizza. Mustard. Breakfast for lunch. Mustard. It didn't matter what it was. He would drench it in mustard. He wasn't doing it just to make a mess of his lunch tray. He always finished his mustard food. I had a locker above his and he always yelled something stupid. The most common phrase was I got balls in my face. He also somehow brought koala poop to the school. In high school we had a kid that wore his pants up to his nipples. So he was called Pants all through high school. He was very strange. Got way too close to people. Purposely liked to slowly touch people. And creep them out. Always walked around on his tiptoes for some reason. In grade 12 he tried to poison someone just to see how it felt. 2 years after high school he got put in jail for killing a hooker. He would have full conversations. Arguments. And sometimes physical altercations with a brick column in the middle of the cafeteria. Who usually won? I had a few. One was obsessed with all Asian culture, kind of random since we lived in a very rural community in Canada with little connection to the outside world, let alone to Asia, and would lose her mind if anyone said anything remotely negative about it. It started out as mainly just a fixation on Pokemon, anime, and K-pop, but quickly branched out to all things Asian. She once hid me with a textbook because we were discussing M-Butterfly in class and I said that I didn't like it. This was at age 16. Another kid used to pick his nose until it bled and then go home because he had a nosebleed. He would also eat the boogers. We were all surprisingly chill about that part of his personality. The thing we all hated most about this kid is that he would lie about the most random stuff. Like he would deny that he got hit when playing dodgeball or caught when playing tag on the playground. One time my neighbor made me a little inukshuk glued to a piece of driftwood and I brought it to school to show the class. This kid picked it up in front of everyone. Immediately dropped and broke it. And then denied that it was him that broke it. Even though we had all literally watched him do it. He cried when we continuously called him out on it. This was also at age 16. Edited to added that the lying kid one time broke his arm and came to school in a sling. The next day the sling was on the opposite arm. Even the teacher called him out on that one. I had a girl hiss at me in 5th grade. Hadn't seen her in about 16 years. Recently went to a party she was attending. She asked if I remembered her and said boy howdy. She hissed again. I always knew she was weird. They thought they were an immortal vampire. And walked around talking and acting the part. Yeah. I knew a homeschool kid who was convinced he was Spider-Man. Like he'd try to climb up walls and flick his wrists to fling web. If you didn't play along he would run crying to his mom. His go-to excuse for not having homework finished was that he was traveling, even though he was at every class. And he never paid attention to anything but his fidget spinner unless he was talking. The way he spoke. He knew everything there was about creative writing. Yet his submissions consisted of plots ripped off directly from anime. This was in a college class. I don't think you understood him. When he said traveling he meant through time. He keeps going back to the past. Writing great stories to submit for class. And before he returns to the present he trips over an uneven brick and his original story flies out of his hand and is found by a Japanese man who turns it into an anime. Probably. There was a kid at my high school who never talked. It wasn't that he couldn't speak. Or that he only spoke to his close friends. He just wouldn't speak to anyone. Teachers didn't call on him because they knew he didn't talk. When a substitute would come in and try to call on him there was always some kid who would have to explain Ricky doesn't talk. If you asked him a question he would just look at you. It was weird and some people would take offense to his silence. But eventually everyone realized that was just his thing and rolled with it. The only time he spoke was when we had to present individually in class. On those days people would get really excited if they had a class with him because hearing him talk was like seeing a unicorn. Edit. A lot of people have mentioned this possibly being a case of selective mutism. I looked up the diagnosis and it seems like a good match. There were also rumors from kids who rode the bus with him who said that once he got off the bus, he would meet up with his neighborhood friends and, presumably, talk to them. When he did present in class he didn't have a weird voice or any strange vocal qualities. My weird kid stood up at an assembly and asked the vice principal if she knew what hentai was. His dad started a house fire. Insurance scam. And died in the fire. This was around 6th grade. That messed him up a bit. The kid would tap his feet and hands uncontrollably and he talked about shooting people. He would talk to himself and sit in the hallways reciting as many digits of pi as he could. He was a small harmless kid that everyone treated well because he was endearingly weird. If that makes sense. Then he murdered a girl immediately after graduation and hid her body in his bathtub. I was rooting for him in the first half. Kid smelled like he bathed in cat pee every day. Hissed at anyone who came near him. Used to run through the hallways from class to class. Threatened to kill me in a computer lab because I used Internet Explorer instead of Firefox. I'm on his side about not using Internet Explorer. Well, had one guy that was always talking big faking injuries, bent my ankle so I can't practice, liver is burning etc. Always drew pentagrams on took Japanese so he could get away foo. Just all around a fine creep with girls too. Well, go arrested for CP here last month. I wasn't surprised. She was a furry who tried recruiting people into her newly founded furry religion where the type of furry you were spiritually was based on your birthday like some effing astrology BS. She also had a boyfriend who was into the whole furry thing but in a really weird SUAL way cause they'd make out on the floor or in the lounge areas and bark growl at each other and it just made everything uncomfortable for everyone. Not exactly the weird kid but definitely the kid not many people wanted to interact with. Was very pushy. Generally awkward. Also often tried being all cool by using big words but failing miserably. But the thing that took the cake was when some girl sent the entire grade something along the lines of say your name X times. Say your parents' name X times and then say your crush name X and in a few days your crush will be with you. And he actually responded to the email. It was an awkward year till his crush left. He wrote his crush's name on the wall in the bathroom. With his own They caught him brown-handed. Also would freak out if someone said werewolf. Kid look exactly like G-Bag from Prison Break. Instantly was treated as if he had the same personality and so was seen as weird. That's just sad. He always carried around a briefcase. But never opened it. Sat on the briefcase during lunch, classes, etc. It was like the nuclear football. Always in his hand or he was sitting on it. He carried it onto the stage during graduation. Got his diploma. Right as he was leaving the stage. He opened it up. And dumped a bunch of confetti on the principal. I guess it was the long con? No one questioned why he was carrying it on stage. Okay. If that was the real reason he brought it. That kid is epic. There was a kid like that in my junior high. He always wore suits that were too big for him and would bring his homework in a briefcase. When asked why he would always say he was dressing for success. But he never did homework or studied. I think he's working retail now. Weird. I didn't have any weird kids in school. Oh. Oh no. Yeah. As soon as I saw the question I was disappointed I couldn't out the weird kid at my school. I was the weird kid at my school. He walked around like Master Chief. Even teabagged the ground randomly. All while holding an invisible assault rifle. I read that as Master Chef at first and pictured Gordon Ramsay walking around teabagging the ground. He ate playground gravel and used the urinal with his pants and underpants all the way down. He was caught eating berries off of a tree branch in a compost trash can in 5th grade. He'd act feral around everyone else, but if you got to know the kid he was actually pretty down to earth and cool. In middle school around 6th grade I tried getting to know him better and found out he might have had some kind of multiple personality disorder. And was grateful for someone who didn't judge him that much. I try my best to not get him to do stupid sh. He was later expelled for what everyone said was biting a teacher. I saw him once during high school and he got really effing hot too, seemed way chilled out. When I asked about why he left he said he wasn't allowed to talk about it but was getting help, so that's always good. Gabe, if you're out there I hope you're doing well. She was afraid of cows and if you said moo or mentioned cows she'd freak out and attack you. I'll give it to her though, she'd even try to attack guys 3 times her size that were athletes. Sounds like she was milking it. He gave himself a swirly because nobody ever got one in the 3 years he was there. I went to high school with the wolf kid from the meme. On all levels except physical. I am a wolf, next image is him barking at the water. He called himself Wolfie. So I would say that guy. He ended up being the valedictorian for my graduating class. But his refusal to use a locker and carry all of his textbooks in his backpack led to severe back issues, resulting in him wearing a backplate throughout high school. I believe he also has Asperger's, so he wasn't social either. She carried a stuffed rabbit everywhere. Only wore leggings. And constantly propositioned people to have a threesome with her and her boyfriend. Gosh, where do I begin? He was weird but more creepy. He wore a kilt to school. Rumors say with no underwear, on multiple occasions. He talked about how attractive his sister was to the point where a lot of us wondered why he moved to Minnesota from Alabama in the middle of the school year without his sister or dad. He brought his mom's dildos and vibrators to school to try and sell them. He ended up getting expelled for that. But a lot of people say it was because of the amount of girls who came forward and said he was following them home. I was in year 10 when he came up from primary school. I don't know what was wrong with him, but he'd always pretend to be a train and chug along through the quad. People would chuckle as he went past, but he didn't care. Him and his other weird mate would just scoot on by minding their own business. When I was in year 11, one of the scratter kids, a proper mong, through and through, blocked his tracks and took the mick out of him. A group of us shoved him out of the way and berated him for it and encouraged train boy to go on his way. Ours wasn't the best school in the district, but goddamn, at least the trains ran on time. He truly thought he was a dirt bike. He would run through the halls jumping off of lockers and make the shifting gears noises with his mouth. Absolute mad lad. There is a kid at my school and he can't put his laptop down. Eating lunch. On his laptop. As soon as he finishes a test. On his laptop. And we were all wondering what he could put his laptop down for. So one kid asked him. He was designing Minecraft skins and watching Minecraft videos. What a legend. There was a girl in grade 5 that created her own language called Schmalby, and she'd sit in the corner and whisper to herself in it. People also used to tell her there were spiders on her hair and she'd get mad at them and scratch their faces. She purposely grew out the nails on her index, middle and ring fingers and filed them into sharp claws. To be fair, telling someone who is clearly not completely all there that they've got spiders in their hair is probably not going to end well for you. She ended up leaving the school in grade 6. Aside from that, in grade 3 I microwaved a kid's winter boots in our lunchroom because I thought they were the reason he ran faster than me. I was just fat. That was why he was faster. One walked around in high school with a stuffed possum and made it talk in class. Also went on a rant during a class debate about how much she hated Australia because a classmate from there ejected her. Had nothing to do with the debate topic. One claimed she was the CEO of her dad's company and made $1 million a year at 16. Also said she was the granddaughter of the King of Norway. She's not from Norway. Also tried to claim that her friend was killed during the 2011 Oslo terrorist attack. Again. Not from Norway or Europe for that matter. Somehow I got classified as weird, but I'm really not sure why when I think about how many other weird kids went to my school.